Welcome to the Wise Doula podcast, a place for informative, uplifting, and educational conversations. Here, we will discuss all things connected with parenting, from conception to birth, postpartum, and beyond. You are amongst friends here, so go ahead and grab a cup of your favorite drink. Remember, not caffeinated if you are expecting, and join me inside. I can't wait to speak with you. Well, my dear listeners. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming an earlier guest to my podcast again. My guest today is none other than ASMRJeremiah. If you remember, we welcomed him in the podcast a few months ago to speak about his trajectory as an ASMR artist and YouTube content creator. Because ASMR is a type of content that helps people relax and helps people sleep, it is something I recommend to all my pregnant clients. Jeremiah is way more than a content creator and an ASMR artist. He is truly a force to be reckoned with. He has trained and become educated in different aspects. He's a teacher, he's an actor, he's passionate about communication. I love how multifaceted he is. And that's the reason why it is my pleasure to have him on the show again today. You might be wondering what we're going to talk about today. Well, we already talked about ASMR, even though it's a very juicy topic. And today I want to focus our conversation on communication. Communication is something that we honestly take for granted, but it is truly vital in any type of human relationship, whether at work, with our family, anywhere. But it becomes especially important when we are thinking about bringing children into the world, when we are thinking about becoming parents ourselves. That communication plays an important role. First, between the two partners planning to have a baby. And second, between those partners and the society around them. That could include parents, grandparents, friends, extended family, etc. Communication is a truly juicy topic, and I am blessed that Jeremiah took advanced training in communication, and therefore this is a topic that is extremely passionate to him, and it's extremely interesting. I love his insights. I want to share those with you today. I am looking forward to a really deep, rich conversation. And just before we wrap up this introduction, I'm going to bring you up to speed if this is the first time you're meeting Jeremiah. So, Jeremiah is a YouTube content creator. He creates ASMR content, Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, which is a content that helps people calm, relax, sleep, etc. His content is very much about relaxation, meditation, role plays, and I can tell you all of his videos incorporate communication skills in them. It's both in the way he communicates and in the way he advises us to communicate with others, for example, in his therapy role plays. Jeremiah trained professionally as an actor and also has been a teacher for the past 17 years. I love that he brings both the adult perspective, adult to adult, and adult to child perspective as far as communication goes. His channel just reached 60,000 subscribers yesterday. So at the time of recording, it reached 60,000 subscribers. And that is a huge celebration. It is incredible how much he has to give and how much he truly gives through his channel and through his content. He goes above and beyond. And that's why I truly value him as a guest. And I think you are going to have an amazing time listening to this conversation. So without further ado, let us welcome Jeremiah to the show. Welcome back to the show, Jeremiah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be back, Marta.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad to have you back. So, in today's episode, we are talking about, in today's interview, we are
Hmm.
talking about communication, which is kind of a doozy. It's a big, big, big word.
Hmm.
And I think something we all take for granted. We think it's like super easy. Oh, I know how to talk to people. This is done.
Hmm.
But it's not really quite done.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where it's one of those weird things that because you speak and because you've been speaking your entire, life, other than,
Mhm,
since you were 1.5 or whatever, that it is implied that then we must be good at communicating. And the reality is, very few people ever actually get any real training in communication.
mhm,
And it's a profoundly useful skill to really take some time and figure out, like, why am I communicating the way I'm communicating, for
mhm,
example. Like, everybody knows how to talk and articulate their feelings, but many people are completely unconscious as to why they're reacting to things. Like, many people are oblivious to, like, why am I being triggered by this? Why am I being upset by this? And that is where the real work goes in communication, is like going, okay, why am I being triggered by this? What about this upset me? And, you know, and it's not the way. And I thought, I mean, I grew up in a pretty freaking communicative family,
mhm,
and there was still so much to learn and for me to go through and have to deal with, that it's just not intuitive. Like, real communication, like powerful communication, is very counterintuitive, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I've thought, like, it'd be really interesting to do like a high school course in communication for,
mhm.
for high school level kids. Um, It'd be fascinating. And it's like, but I don't really want to do that. But part of me thinks it'd be really cool, but I don't really want to be a high school teacher. So so I talk about it on my ASMR channel a lot. I just talk about it in my therapy videos. Let's
Yeah.
talk about communication. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you're talking about what's on the surface is that
Hmm.
basic communication that we all know and think about and
Hmm.
feel comfortable with. But then the layers underneath, right? Like if we think about people in our family and stuff, we're like you said, I grew up in a very communicative household. So did I.
Hmm.
But then sometimes I've sat back and gone, oh my goodness, there were so many things that were left unsaid and kind of
Hmm.
pushed in the corners of the room, or
Hmm.
swept under the carpet a little bit.
Well,
And then,
humans hate conflict.
mm-hmm,
We humans abhor conflict. And, like, as soon as somebody's ideas get challenged, it's really hard to separate your ideas from your identity.
mm-hmm,
It's very hard.
yeah,
It's almost impossible. Um, and so when somebody's idea gets challenged, your body response often is similar to a physical threat, where your heart rate goes up, your adrenaline goes up, and you're on the defensive now. And when that happens, it's very uncomfortable. And so we just really avoid conflict like the plague, man. Which is why online is so weirdly toxic, because people would never behave that way to somebody's face. They
mm-hmm,
would never say those things to that person in the room, but they'll say
yeah,
horrible, awful things about them online, because that repercussion that we all grew up with in, ancient humans for thousands of years, we only grew up in groups of like 70 to 100 people. Like, that was it. Like, that's what humans grew
mm-hmm,
up in. And you knew everybody, and everybody knew you, and you all cooperated, and you worked together, or you didn't, and you were outcast. Which is why people have a massive fear of being outcast. a public shaming is a terrifying thing because if you get kicked out of your tribe, it literally meant you were probably going to die.
Hmm.
So it's very much easier just to kind of like go with whatever they said, even if you don't agree with it, like, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
You just go along. You don't want to rock the boat, you don't want to make waves. And where real powerful communication comes in is the ability to have those conversations without attacking the person that you disagree with. And whereas you're having
Hmm.
you can disagree with somebody without attacking them. And that is a real subtle art. And I, I sometimes succeed. I often don't. I often don't. Sometimes I get it right. But it's just so counterintuitive, to speak from vulnerability to vulnerability versus ego to ego.
Hmm.
And, it's just, yeah, if I could somehow teach that skill of like, what you're really mad right now because you're afraid. What are you afraid of? And then see what happens. And this is not how people communicate. We just don't do that. We're just ego clashes ego. I'm right, you're wrong, like no, 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 F you. And that's just so not that's just that top level of just communication. Like it's
Hmm.
okay. It's like you're talking about the weather. It's just it's surface level, it's small talk,
Surface. Yeah.
but it's not the real stuff. The real stuff is what are you afraid of and why? Why are you afraid of these things? Why? Yeah.
I love that you emphasize two things. Number one, how we don't like confrontation in general as human beings. We hate it. And number two, how when we have to confront somebody, it's like you feel that it physically hurts. It doesn't just
Yes.
emotionally hurt, it hurts physically. You like
Your heart
your
rate goes up,
tense
my lower
up.
back gets
Yeah.
tight. I feel like, oof, I remember weird example. But I remember like years ago, I was in an acting class and Rush Limbaugh had just died. And I'm not like I kind of grew up listening to Rush. My dad was a big Rush Limbaugh fan. I was never a big Rush Limbaugh fan, like whatever. But for those who don't know, he was this kind of famous, kind of right-wing conservative guy.
Mm.
Okay. And he dies. And this dude in my acting class was like, good, like, he deserved it. And all I did was go like, that's not, I wouldn't, dude, like, you may have disagreed with him, but like wishing death on him is like, that's a weird, I wouldn't do that. Like, I just wouldn't do that. And I could tell that because we're in a classroom of like really hyper LA, very liberal, very like left wing, world.
Mm.
And that little, and I didn't even challenge him. I mean, it wasn't like, dude, how dare you? I was just like, I don't know. But he didn't come back to class. He never came back. Like that little challenge was so confronting to him of me just going like, yeah, I don't know if I would wish death on people you disagree with politically, man. Like I don't think that's good. That he never came back to class after that. And he had been coming to class for years. So it's wild how people hate confrontation, and when you challenge their beliefs, it feels like you're getting punched, and it's just like whoa. Um, yeah. So this is an example of how it's just it's you got to be delicate, man. People are they don't like now. Some people, of course, I forget what are the classic big five traits, and one, of course, is disagreeableness. And some people have high disagreeableness, and they tend
Mm.
to be reporters, people that don't mind like getting into it. They don't mind being confrontational, but they're rarer. And even them, I still think when it really comes to like relationships and politics and religion and stuff, it just gets so viscerally uncomfortable to have
Mm.
your ideas challenged. It's weird.
Mm.
It's
Hmm.
weird, but it is. So,
That
yeah.
yeah, that it's part of your identity almost, and it's like you're almost insulting me, by saying you don't agree
Yeah,
with my ideas.
right.
Uh, Do you think the fear of confrontation is something that builds up over time in people to the point that if you have not been good at confronting people over the majority of your life, you get to a point where you simply freeze at the thought of confronting people?
Yeah, I think it's a byproduct of lack of being challenged when you're young. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you if you you know, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you're a 16-year-old kid and, daddy didn't buy you a Porsche for your 16th birthday, and that's the worst thing that's ever happened to you, to that 16-year-old kid, that feels like a trauma, like a
Mm-hmm.
slap in the face. My friends all got their Porsches, and I didn't get my Porsche on my 16th birthday. This is the worst day ever. Oh my God. Right? And then there's another kid who, saw their parents get blown up. And that's the worst thing they've ever had to deal with.
Yeah.
You can say, well, my God, like, that's not even a fair comparison. Well, it just, to that 16-year-old trust fund baby, that's the worst thing that's ever happened to them.
Yeah.
And you would all agree, like, that's their reaction to that is absurd, right?
Right.
But when you coddle people and you don't force them to confront their behavior when they're
Mm-hmm.
children and young adults, especially in their, early teens when they're really developing their own personalities,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're not forced to confront their behavior and the repercussions of their behaviors and the repercussions of things they say,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not pushed back on, the world gets scarier and scarier. COVID was fascinating. When you go into lockdown and everybody's home for 2 years, a year and a half, whatever, even me, a massive extrovert, you get really kind of more comfortable in your little house. And like you're just like, I don't want to go out any much as more because it's this scary world out there.
Yeah.
And the cure is exposure. You just have to
Mm.
get out there and have your ideas challenged and talk to people and I don't know about necessarily debate, but have discussions. You can disagreements and it's really important to have people disagree with you and it not be like you're being slapped in the face. But that only happens through exposure. You just
Right.
have to go do it. It's like anything. You have to go do the thing to get good at the thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so, one of the like I was just listening to, like, thinking about therapy and stuff, and it's like there's a big problem right now with young people. And the world is safer now than it ever has been. It's literally, we are the wealthiest, safest it's ever been in human history,
Mm-hmm.
and especially in the West. Like, I'm really speaking of the United States and like Europe and things like that. And yet, anxiety and depression are on the rise
Yeah.
amongst young kids.
Yeah.
Why? Well, one of the reasons is that I think our generation, Marta, you and me, we're kind of the last generation of like, walk it off, kid. Suck it up. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm
Absolutely.
sorry. Ooh, you stubbed your toe. Deal with it. Like, just go, put some dirt on it. You'll be fine. And a reaction to that for a lot of people my age and our age that have kids is like, well, I thought that was mean. So everything is, honey, how are you feeling about this? What are your feelings about this? Oh my gosh, are you upset? Are you depressed? Do you have anxiety about that? And so what you're doing is you're just reinforcing that behavior. You're reinforcing that like, is there something wrong with me? Maybe I am depressed. Maybe I am do I have anxiety. Maybe I am afraid. Maybe that. And it's not helpful. Like there's you have to find that balance. And I'm not saying be mean and abusive, but like you have to find that balance of like, you're gonna be okay, kid. Walk it off. You're gonna be fine. You're tougher than you think. Like you're okay. Just deal with it. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting how good intentions
Mm-hmm.
have weird backfires. Good intentions, but they just backfire
Yes.
horribly, And one of those things is like over coddling. Jonathan Haidt wrote a great book, The Coddling of the American Mind, like this was like 10 years ago with Greg Lukianoff. And that whole thing, this is like internet and like helicopter parenting and like it's why is anxiety and depression spiking when it by every measure it should be less than it was 50
Mm-hmm.
years ago. It should be less, and yet, so it's a weird one. It's a weird one, but I think getting back to your question again was like, why do
If when you experience that lack of confrontation for years and years and
right?
years, do you think people get to a point that they're absolutely frozen
Yes,
when they have to confront somebody and it feels like
yes,
the biggest hurdle in the world?
yes. I think that absolutely is the case, and I mean, we just went through one of the most fascinating experiences in sheltering in human history, and it was
Mm,
global for 2 years.
mm,
This whole lockdown thing, and you know, what a weird experiment. And the results are still out, but they're coming in. Like results are coming in,
yes.
and the result is a lot more fear, a lot more anxiety, a lot more lack of social skills, fear of public places, fear of other people, a lot more fear is what isolation does, is it causes and creates more fear.
Mm.
And yeah, like so
Yeah, absolutely. I think in connection to what you were talking about young people and how they're like, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm all that. I think we're at a point where we have a lot more knowledge of mental health situations. We're more open talking about it. But we're also at a point where that has become identity for a lot of young kids,
right.
and the rise in ADHD, adult diagnosis, and stuff like that. I'm like, there could be underdiagnosing, but I think in a lot of cases it's overdiagnosed because every
I think
hair
it's
Rick and Jane is going, I
massively
have this, I have that, I have
overdiagnosed.
the other thing. It's
Yeah.
it's absolutely, a- and I wonder if that also comes from not having a not having that good communication system with our families, with our friends. We can get support from lots of places,
Mm.
but a lot of times, especially for young kids, they're getting they're almost building their identity with what they see online,
Hmm.
and there is, I think, a danger to that. How do you feel about that?
Very. I think you and I are in very, very much agreement, and
Mm,
and I think that with is this getting back to the same thing we said, right? If you are telling it's so well intentioned. The sentiment behind the coddling and the helicopter parenting, the
yeah.
sentiment behind it is like, I don't want my kid to feel hurt. I felt hurt when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
it was horrible. I felt
Mm,
shame. I felt bad about my body. I felt bad about, all the guilt that you and I felt when we were kids.
yeah.
Okay? And the shame and the heartaches and the blah, blah, blahs. And you go, okay, well, I don't want my kid to have that. So I'm gonna like not, you don't need to feel that way. How are you feeling? Are you upset right now? Oh, 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 oh.
Mm,
And it's very well intentioned.
yeah.
And unfortunately it doesn't work. It's very well intentioned,
Hmm.
but it's not effective because we need conflict.
Yeah.
We need winners and losers. That's why sports are so important. The world is competitive. Everything
Yeah.
about the entire planet, everything eats everything else, okay? Everything is killing things to survive nonstop. It is a war out there in the world of eating and being eaten. And humans are no different. We're just high up in that food chain, but we're prey to many things too. Like it's like,
Yep.
and so you just can't get away from the fact that the world is competitive, it's challenging, and the only way that you actually grow is by being challenged. Like if you don't have something that's hard that you had to overcome, you're not doing anything, man. Like you have to overcome adversity in order to grow as a person, in order to become an adult. You have to experience adversity and then overcome it
Mhm.
and like rise to the challenge and realize that you're not made out of glass. You're actually pretty tough
Mm.
and you can survive.
Mm.
And and when like I said, when you the coddle, you get that 16-year-old kid who didn't get their Porsche and they have a meltdown because that's the worst thing that ever happened to them.
Yeah.
And it's
Uh,
like they have no comparison. There's no frame of reference of like, oh, you have no idea what real life can be like, kid. You
mhm.
you don't know.
Yeah.
Got it. And you almost feel so you
It's,
kind of feel angry and sorry for them
yeah.
and but like annoyed at them, when people are
Yeah.
entitled. And that's what coddling does. It creates entitlement. Like, I'm this. It's like, no, you're not. Why?
Mhm. Exactly.
Why? Like, no, like, you're gonna lose the game. So, sorry, play harder next time, do better,
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so important and necessary. It's very, yeah, like I do not like any type of mm, push toward less competition. I think it is very well intentioned because nobody wants to be the last kid picked in dodgeball.
All
I
right.
get it. I get it. And I'm not sure, but the I think the cure is way worse, or the medicine, excuse me, of like, let me try to fix that by no competition. Nobody has to feel like they're the worst. That medicine is way more destructive than the kid just dealing with being picked last, which is not cool. Oops, weird. Which is not cool. Like I don't want the kid to be picked last. I get it, but you if you remove that from the world,
Mhm.
the result is like it's just a bummer. You just end up with somebody who is they're very fragile, and then they can't, and it's just like that's
Mhm.
not it's not. I don't think it's good.
Yeah.
And
Not.
I understand the sympathy. I understand why. I get it. I don't want anybody to feel pain. I don't want anybody to feel shame or embarrassment. I don't. And you have to learn what it feels like to lose, be wrong, overcome, take on a really hard project, and then do the damn thing. And
Yeah.
if you take that away, you're just not doing anybody any favors, man. You're just
Yeah.
you just create a fragile human, you
Mm.
know. And it's like, like you create somebody where, me challenging like, yeah, maybe don't wish death upon somebody who was just like has a different politics than you.
Yeah.
I can't be in that acting class with him anymore. You know what I mean?
Oof.
Like that becomes it's like, oh, I couldn't handle that. Like I got challenged. And it was so that was so confronting to me that
Mhm.
I can't be in that class with him anymore.
Right.
That's what that leads to. You know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Absolutely.
And it's like, yeah, it's like I didn't say you're a bad dude. I just said don't wish death on people. Like
Yeah.
unless they're
Exactly.
like unless they're like but again, and I guess in his mind it's like, well, Rush Limbaugh like literally is like Satan. But again, I would say, is he though? I mean, I get that you really disagree with him, and I don't agree with him, but he's not the devil. It's
Yeah.
just like he's not a mass murderer.
Right.
He's not Hitler. He's not Stalin. He's not Mao. He's not, a murder. He's like, he's just a dude. And he shares different politics than you, but he's not the devil. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And people, and there's more and more of that. And again, it's kind of a byproduct of social media, where it's like, the problem with social media is that you can find the people that agree with you. And even if
Mm-hmm.
you agree, even if like you agree like flat Earth, right? If you think that the Earth is flat, you will find your little tribe of people that think the Earth is flat, and they
Yep.
yas queen each other. Yes, oh my
Yes.
gosh, yeah, you don't even know. Everything's fake. The Earth is flat, or like hollow Earth, or whatever nonsense, you want to go down. You will find your group of people that will yas queen you. Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
this is totally right. And don't challenge. There's no debate. There's no intellectual rigor. And that always leads to weird places. But because the internet is so big, no matter
Yep.
how weird your idea is, there's somebody's gonna be like, that is 1,000% correct, dude. I totally agree with you. And it's
Yes.
like, ooh, that's dangerous. It's dangerous. But that's happened. And so people silo themselves off in echo chambers, and humans' favorite activity is to other people. We love othering people. We love
Mm,
a team. We love even like the most random, I forget the example. What was it like? They just like, you're randomly you draw straws and you're on the red team or the blue team. The red team will instantly be like, okay, no, we're definitely smarter than the blue team, right? Oh yeah, they're idiots. Look at that. There's morons over there. We got this. We're definitely stronger. We're better. We're better than they are. And it just happens instantly. You just do it like without thinking about it. You just instantly other. And we love doing that. Who's on my tribe? Who's my team? Who's got my back? And and
yep.
the other people are the devil. They're the
Yeah.
devil, and they don't deserve my freedom and rights. They don't deserve it. And people, we just love doing that, man. And it's
Yeah.
so toxic. And when you're not forced to interact with people who disagree with you, when you're
Mm-hmm.
not forced to have conversations with people who viscerally disagree with you, and you can have a civil conversation and
Mm-hmm.
walk away and it's like, I totally think you're wrong. Let's get a beer. And that's really getting lost these days, where it's like, I can
Yeah.
totally disagree with you. I think you're completely wrong, and let's get dinner. It's fine. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means I just viscerally disagree with you on this thing, but still love you. It's fine. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's people like, and you see that like, in like the political thing, like a Democrat would never date or marry a Republican, or a Republican would never date or marry a
Right.
Democrat. And it's like, people,
And yet, Jeremiah, I have a friend
wow.
that worked in Washington for a while. She was part of a caucus.
Hmm.
And she told me that during the day they fight, and at night they go to the same bars and have a beer together.
Well, the pundits do on TV, but that's the thing, right? Because
Um,
they're the ones that are playing the game. They're in the game. They're in the
right.
arena, right? They're on TV. They're in the arena. They're
Yeah.
fighting,
Yeah.
and yeah, afterward they all go have a beer.
Yeah.
But but they're in the game. The
Yeah.
people sitting at home are never talking to the opposing side.
Right.
They're just hearing the thing that they like to hear again and again, and you're like, and then when you get challenged even a little bit, it feels like somebody's physically slapping them, and their heart rate goes
Absolutely.
up, and you feel like attacked, which is
Yeah.
why you get this weird land of, words are violence, and it's just like, I don't think that means what you think it means. I don't think you know what violence actually means, and
Right.
why punching somebody or getting punched is actually really different than me telling you you suck. It's
Right.
actually a very different thing,
Right.
violent violence. And so I think, that it just, yeah, yeah, I just don't think it works. I get why people do it. You want to be nice. You
Yeah.
want to be nice.
Yeah.
And I remember, funny story. So I remember I was back in my ballroom dance instructor days. The movie, was it Moulin Rouge came out? I think it
Hmm.
was, Ewan McGregor, and there was like a dance scene, okay? And there's like like a tango, okay? And I was talking to one of my fellow dance instructors, and she was going like, "That was the best movie I've ever seen. That scene, that tango, that was the most violent scene I have ever witnessed." And I was like, "What are you talking about? That was a dance. Did you ever see the beginning of Saving Private Ryan? Like, that's violence. Like that. What
Hmm.
world are you talking about where a tango is the most violent scene you've ever seen?" And it's like, okay, no, but okay, I don't know, it's not. But and it's passionate. Get, I'm a
Right.
dancer. I'm a dancer. I love tango.
Yep. Yep.
It's a fiery dance, man. I get it.
It is
But
fiery.
it's not being shot at. It's
Yeah.
not being beat up. It's not being mugged.
Hmm.
It's not a whole host of horrible things. It wasn't violence. And people like I don't I worry there's a huge like diminishment of language that's happened.
Yes.
And I'm very weary about that diminishment of language where it's like words we used to think we knew what they meant. Now it's like they don't mean that anymore. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if that's good, man. Like, I don't know if it's good to call everything violence. It's like,
Yeah.
well, because then what do you mean when you say the word? It's like, now it doesn't, now it just means everything. So I was like, well,
That overuse. Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
I don't like diminishment. I think language is really important. In the last 20 years has seen a fascinating diminishment in language
Hmm.
about a lot of different things. And I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad. I know my gut tells me it's actually not good at all, but it
Yeah.
worries me.
It's
So
definitely concerning. Yes.
yeah.
Um, I want us to, well, we will go back to this caroling of people that we've talked about because I think that's an important subject to touch on again, especially as these teenagers that are being caroled become parents or become adults and start thinking about becoming parents themselves.
Hmm.
When they come from that upbringing and now they are thinking about starting a family of their own,
Hmm.
how and being adults in their own right, how is all that caroling that they've had as teenagers now affecting them or influencing them?
Well, here's the thing. I have no idea. Everything goes in yo-yos, right? It goes like up and like the old saying. It's like
Hmm.
hard times create hard men, who create soft times, who create soft men, who create hard times, who create hard men,
I
right? It's
like
just
that. That makes sense.
and this has been the case forever, right? And
Hmm.
this goes back literally thousands of years. Um, and I have every single generation in written history thinks
Hmm.
that the previous generation or the current generation is a bunch of wimp sissies who don't know what real work is and don't know
Yes.
like, the value of like a hard
Yes.
day's work. Has said every single generation. And
Hmm.
there's a great I saw a Twitter thread on this. They had these newspaper articles going like you know 2020, oh, the new generation, these Gen Zs, they're what do they know? Computer generation, they're so soft. And then like the previous, oh, these kids are so soft. And then you go back to like 1980, oh, these guys are all these hippies are so soft. And you go back to like apparently the World War II generation, our greatest generation, right?
Hmm.
Like the World War One generation was writing about how they're a bunch of soft little sissies, and we did all the hard fighting, and these kids are just a bunch of they don't know the value of a dollar and hard work.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then they became the greatest generation. And it's like my point is like I have no idea where this yo-yo goes. We're on a
Hmm.
weird yo-yo at the moment of overprotection,
Yeah.
coddling, like we're a super soft land. We don't want anybody to have any bad times, everything you're
Yeah.
feeling's cool. Oh my gosh, whatever you're feeling is totally the most important thing ever. And that will have a effect, and it will cause something else in the future. How they will raise their children, I literally have no idea.
Hmm.
Um, no idea. It's
Yeah.
like because you never know how a stimulus will. You never know the true reaction of the stimulus until hindsight. And hindsight, you go, oh, now I see it. But when it's happening, again, with well-intentioned things,
Hmm.
y- it should work. If I'm very nice to you, you will be very nice. And if I shield you from the pain of humiliation or the pain of loss or losing the game, or like if I shield you from
Hmm.
competition, you will be happier because you're never going to feel that badness that I felt.
Right.
And the unintended consequence is you create a monster,
Yeah.
but it's totally unintended.
Hmm.
And
True.
what that kid then does, I have no idea. Because I don't know if we've ever seen an
Yes.
experiment like this on this level. I have no idea how these current 20-year-old, 18, 17-year-old kids,
I
when
don't
they start
know.
having their own families, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it'll be some kind of a balance. And
Hopefully.
every generation learns off the mistakes of their parents.
Hmm.
Learned from the mistakes of my parents, and then they did a little better than their parents, and they did a little better. I mean, if I go back 3, 4 generations in my family, like, it's psychotic. I mean, people were just getting the crap beat out of them. They're beating their children left, right, and center. Like, it was just the norm, was just to get beaten on a weekly, if not almost daily basis. Like,
Hmm.
like hardcore. Like, you go pick the
Yeah.
switch. Like, I'll stop spanking you when my arm gets tired. Like that was like 2 generations ago, man. That was yesterday. And we just
Yeah.
now it'd
Yeah.
be like, that's psychotic. You would never do that.
Right.
And that's like yesterday. So, and I think that's great progress, by the way. Like, that's good, You shouldn't uh
You should. True.
go tell your kid to go pick the stick you're gonna beat him with.
Yeah.
It's like that Goodwill Hunting scene where it's like, my dad when he laid out like the belt and the something and the wrench, and I chose the wrench because F him. And it's like, yeah, that's psychotic, man. Like,
Yeah.
that's whoa, you
Yeah.
know? And so we've gone the other way
Yes.
in this
Absolutely.
generation. What the outcome will be, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Um, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm very human positive. Humans are very resilient.
True.
And people are, when forced with adversity for realsies,
Hmm.
humans are really cool at rising. But again, not everybody, but that's been the case forever. You always have people who are just like, eh, always, always.
That's so true.
That's never not been the case. I think it's more now, but it's really weird to be in my 40s and feel like back in my day. Like, it's really trippy because I
Hmm.
remember my parents having those feelings like back in my day. And we all look back on our things like, "Well, we had it tough, man, dude. We drank water from the hose and like, rub dirt on it, kid, like walk it off, like, just don't be just you're fine."
Yeah.
And I'm very, very, very curious to see what somebody who is currently like, let's say 15,
Hmm.
when they're in their 40s, they look back and they go, "Man, you kids today, when I was a kid, it was the wild west of the internet, and we didn't know what was going on, and like we were like basically guinea pigs in the social media experiment, and like
Yep.
it was crazy when we were kids.
Yeah.
You kids, you don't have it. You know what I mean? Like I have no idea
Yep. Absolutely.
what their version will be,
Yeah.
but it's gonna happen. Like they're
Yeah.
gonna have their version of it. It's just weird. It's just
It's
funny.
it
It's just,
is.
yeah. It's just, I find it all amusing. That's all.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see where it goes and everything. Now, I have a question for you, Jeremiah, and in connection with what we've been discussing. Um, what what is it that sparked your curiosity in learning more about communication? I know you've mentioned to me before that you did a year-long training
Mhm,
on communication and management, and so
mhm.
was it those? Time spent in front of the TV as a child watching the psychologist on TV? Is that what sparked your love, or was it
Oh,
something
no.
else?
My intuition tells me it's probably a bit just kind of innate.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been um, interested in humans and psychology. Now, you could say, well, my because my parents were, like, my dad was talking about if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Great book, by the way, Sheldon Kopp, highly recommend. My dad was talking to me about that book when I was like 8, 10 years
Wow.
old. So like I've been fascinated and interested in the study of human behavior, and I
Mm-hmm.
was fascinated at its predictive value. I remember being very shocked as a child to learn that, yeah, it's like if you mess up a kid in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
like if you abuse or molest a child in a certain way, they will often go on to abuse and do the same horrible thing.
Absolutely.
And it's like I was like, what? I mean, they don't like get over it and learn like that was horrible, never do that again.
Yeah.
They go and then repeat it. They go repeat the physical abuse and violence that was done to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's wild. And I remember as a kid being like, so you can like predict how people are gonna behave based on their trauma or lack of traumas. And I was like, whoa. That
Mm.
was
Right.
fascinating to me. I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, wow, that's really wild.
Mm-hmm.
And this is consistent? It's very consistent.
Yep.
Whoa. Now, psychology is, of course, a soft science. It's not like physics or mathematics or, whatever. It's psychology bends. It's really hard
Yeah.
to reproduce and recreate studies. It's really hard to prove things. But there's enough research out there, especially with like behavioral cognitive psychology, where it's like it has fascinating predictive value. So I was
Mm-hmm.
interested in that at a very early age in psychology, psychiatry, psychology, I guess. Very interested. And then I did my first like deep dive when I was like 21. And then I did uh my next big deep dive was years later when I was like 34, 35, 34, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was feeling a little, not lost, but maybe like in a bit of a rut. And I was like, I want to like kind of shake up my life. I want to take on this course and this challenge, of doing this thing. Because at the time, I wanted to use it to become an actor, and I was like, maybe I need to get out of my way a little bit more. Maybe if I just like can like
Mm-hmm.
manifest this world more effectively, more powerfully, I would
Mm-hmm.
be I would be better at it. So I took on this year-long communication course, and it was very hard on our relationship. Megan was not okay. My wife was not okay with it, and very upset and almost led us to splitting up. However, but that's the thing. The fact that it almost did lead us to split up, but then you work through it is
Mhm.
overcoming that hurdle, that upset, that breakdown. And if you can
Yeah.
work through those things, the other side is so much sturdier. You know, the table you're building, now I got 8 legs, not four, because we've been through
Wow.
some stuff, man.
Mhm.
But now now my table is sturdy, but it's sturdy because I smashed face first into the brick wall
Wow.
of confronting, and it was like, and it was really hard, and it
Mhm.
was challenging, and it was scary, and it was all the things, and and it was beautiful, and I cried many wonderful happy tears with the the team that I had, the group, and my fellow coaches and stuff was very powerful. But it's yeah, but my interest in it, I, I've just always been curious. I have to really credit my parents. And my parents from an early age said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And I'm not sure where that
Mhm.
quote comes from, but that's something that like I've just believed in my gut since almost as long as I can remember that the unexamined life is not worth living, and you need to constantly be looking at yourself and how are you being in the world? How am I
Absolutely.
d- could I be better?
Mhm.
What would being better look like? What would it look like? And I used to think, well, being better would look like I was, like a famous actor or something. Now, I don't get me wrong, like I would do a movie or a TV show, but I just also really don't care. Like that used to be like my
Mhm.
sole ambition was like I would if I could have been in a movie like Dead Poet Society. I remember when I was 16, I loved Dead Poet
Oh,
Society, Robin Williams, oh man.
amazing.
And like and I thought, dude, if I could be in a movie like that, like I could die happy, man. Because that was my goal, is like to make art like that, to
Uh-huh.
be in film and television like that. But then now that I know kind of how the sausage is made, and I've
Uh-huh.
been in LA, man, and I know what it's like to be an actor, and I know
Mhm.
what it's like to grind and go and spend all the money and do all the courses and do the workshops and do the headshots and do the this and the that. I and you realize like it is a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of those people.
Mhm.
And it's mostly luck and a lot of
Oh, yeah.
nepotism and a lot of nepotism. Don't get me wrong. Tom Hanks's son, he's a fine actor. Did a great job as Mr. Rogers. Really liked him in Band of Brothers. He's Tom Hanks's kid.
Hmm. Yeah.
Fine actor.
Yeah. The dynasties, I
You
know.
know, and the amount of that is, there's just a lot of it, man. Of who you know, who's friends,
Yeah.
who's, oh, well, your uncle so and so's a producer. He'll get you an audition, and maybe that only leads to you getting like a few lines
Mhm.
on a sitcom at first, but that is huge compared to 98% of other actors. Like you just kind of got in the door really easily. And
Yeah.
it's just like, so the older I've gotten, the more I just realize like it's a weird world, and I am much more interested in being um my own autonomous business person, company,
Mhm.
my own thing.
Mhm.
It's so much more fulfilling and satisfying. Now, this, of
Yeah.
course, is said by the person who did not become the actor, who did not do the thing. And maybe I would have a totally different story if I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, I've been on CSI Miami for 10 years. Like maybe I'd be like, well, anybody can do it. You can do it. Follow your dreams. Anybody, if you just believe it hard enough, you too can hold this statue. And it's like, well,
I think it's your
maybe.
dreams can change, maybe. I'm
Maybe
sure
what
of that.
you realize is that the things that you set out that are to make you happy are probably not the things that will make you happy.
Mhm.
It's just, it changes as you
So
get
true.
older, and you set out on mission A. And if I get to mission A, I will be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that it's not that actually you're happy because you were working, you were doing something, you were pursuing something challenging. It's never in in the acquisition of the goal. The acquisition of the goal is always let's just say anticlimactic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
It is. Yeah.
once you get it, it's like
And now
next,
what?
next.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
so the older I get, the more I just realize that the journey is so much more important than the actual goal. You know, like for
Mm-hmm.
example, like 100,000 subscribers, a 500,000 subscribers, a million subscribers. What do you do? We know it's like, well, the goal is like, what if I got to a million subscribers? Well, when I get to a million subscribers, I'm gonna be like, oh, oh, that's
Mm.
cool. Anyway,
Yeah, that's cool.
next. But it's you know, it's just like what I don't know. Next, you got to keep
Yeah.
pushing the thing and like going for it. So, I hope that makes sense. And that was quite a long ramble.
That makes sense.
It's my
Um,
gift, the gift of the ramble.
it's the gift of the ramble. Like that's totally it's a very good gift. I was gonna say you mentioned that when you were doing that communication course,
Mm,
it was really hard on you as a couple. I imagine because
mhm.
it was stirring up a lot of things, or it was um,
Yeah.
shifting the paradigm between you two. How did you get to a point where you feel your communication with Megan, your wife, is effective as a couple?
Look,
Or
it's
you're still
something
working on it, I'm
it's
sure,
something
like
I
everybody.
still work on. Like it never it's one of those things like you'll never like achieve enlightenment. It's like
Yeah.
that doesn't exist. Like, you know, you'll never one day be like, I now am enlightened in communication. No. It's just you're always going to be changing and growing and learning. And the key, the thing that the goal
Mm-hmm.
is to learn how to get off of it faster. Not that you're not going to get triggered, not that you're not going to be mean, not that you're not going to say hurtful things and be defensive and be protective of your ego.
Mm-hmm.
It's the art of how quickly can you realize it and then go, oh, stop. Ooh, I was totally in my ego there. I was totally being defensive and I was making you wrong. And I was like pretending it's important that I'm right. And the sooner you can get off it, that's the magic sauce. And that just takes work, man. And
Mm-hmm.
the beauty of the communication course was how see my big challenges for me was things like I never want to disappoint people. Like I hate disappointing people. My
Mm-hmm.
fear is that I am wasting everybody's time. I am wasting your time.
Yeah.
Nobody cares, Jeremiah. You should sit down and shut up. You're just a total burden to
Mm.
everybody. That is my neurosis, right?
Right.
And so the way that manifests itself is like, I want to make everybody happy. So yeah, yeah, yes, yes, yeah, sure. And so I'm a
Mm.
big fence sitter. And I'm telling you, sitting on a fence is very uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
And I kick that can down the road and like instead of making a decision, I
Mm-hmm.
would kick the can down the road until the decision was forced. And then I'd be like, I just, oh, I didn't. And it's a very ineffective way of being. And I was very much being that way in my early marriage. It's like I don't want to make anybody sad. I don't want to upset anybody. I want to make my dad happy. I want to make my wife happy. I want to make my family. I want to make her family happy. I want to make. And instead of just focusing on like, well, what about just pick one? Who's the most important?
Mm-hmm.
Right, my wife. Does
Yeah.
she know that? Does she know that? No. I need to
Yeah.
make. I need to fix that right now. So it's so I was I would be just kicking the can. Like I can't make the decision until it's made for me. Oh, and by then it's like, oh, see, I can't. I didn't. Oh, I can't. I'm gonna be power now. See, it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly ineffective way of being. It's so much more effective. Like, no, I'm doing this because I want to do this and I really enjoy doing this. You can come if you want
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
not. Totally cool. Up to you. I'm
Yep.
doing this, so join me or don't.
Yep.
Either way, it's totally cool. You decide. But I'm gonna do this. Come on. And that was really, and I'm still working on it. I'm still learning, but that was really
Mhm.
hard. It's a very, I'm not gonna say by any means like I'm like a master at that or something. Ugh, no, but I'm a lot better than I was,
Mhm.
10 years ago. A lot better at just saying no. And it's like it's okay to say no to people. They're they're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ruin their life or their day
Yeah.
because I'm like, nah, it doesn't work for me. It's fine. Like,
Yeah. That's a big one, but yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So things like that.
I was gonna say, I I believe you've mentioned before that you and Megan, you don't currently have any children, but
Mm,
you would like to have a family in the future, um,
be
if it
cool.
happens,
Be cool.
and it would
It'd be
be
a neat
cool,
adventure.
right? It
Yeah.
would be a good adventure. Um,
I think
how
I'd
do
be an
you?
awesome dad.
You play a very good dad. I know we've always commented that on the videos, like you play a very good dad. You play an awesome dad. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But I do believe you would be a good dad, absolutely.
Thank you.
Um, how I think what advice do you have for how do you start that conversation? Let's say that
Oh,
let's
having kids?
yes, yes.
Oh, I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. That's totally that's such an individual thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I'm kind of speaking out of school even. It's one of those things that's so personal and private, and there's just no right answer. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like you
I
just have
got
to
you.
you'd have to decide like what do you want? Like there's no way to um and the reality is most people, it's like for most people, most of the
Uh-huh.
time it's not really planned. It's just like, oops, we wrestled naked. Here we go. Like like
True.
that's most, right? And some people, plan it
Mm-hmm.
and whatever, but it's just yeah, I just there's no
There's
right
no
answer
right
there.
or wrong. I
No,
got
it's
you.
just you just have to communicate what you want in your life. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to have a life partner, it's very important that you and your life partner have that discussion before you boo up, before you get married.
Yeah.
It's very important that you guys are on the same page, you
Yes.
know? And there are absolutely like things that I would call deal breakers in a relationship. And again, if one party really wants kids and the
Yeah.
other one really doesn't, I just don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if that
Mm.
relationship can fundamentally work because one person will have to relinquish their desires. And depending on how strong those desires are, I don't know. But there's no way of knowing, right? It's like the magical mystical like average human. There's no such thing as an average human. It doesn't
Mm.
exist. There's no way
True.
of judging like what their circumstances are from this person to that person, what they want and so forth. And everybody talks, it's like, well, the average adult. Well, it's like that is you've already just said the most useless thing ever. And I know what you
Mm-hmm.
mean, and I use it too. And it's like, the average this. I know what I mean by it, but
Yeah.
it's such a nebulous concept. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't, when you get to the individual, it's just everything's out the window because we're all different. We're all complex. We all have totally varying wants, desires, neuroses, past traumas, all the
Mm-hmm.
things that make you you
Yeah.
makes you you. You beautiful, unique snowflake.
Absolutely. Well,
Because you are. Because it's true. You are.
It
And
is true.
and a lot of people experience the same things you experience, and a lot of people can completely relate to the traumas that you've suffered and are suffering through. And people
Yeah,
can know, and you find the right person that's had the same trauma, and it can be like, oh my God, like a breath of fresh air. Like, you get me, you understand me.
yeah,
All those are true at the same time. And you're totally unique, you're totally awesome and special, and you're shockingly not that unique and you're
right.
not that special,
You're not
but
that
both
special.
are completely true at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
weird. You have to be able to balance this. Like,
Yeah,
yes, I am completely, uniquely, individually awesome. There's no one else like me. And there's a lot of people that are very similar to me
yeah,
who have
exactly.
experienced very similar traumas, very similar things, have very similar likes and wants that I do. And I
Yeah.
am completely 100% uniquely me. Both are true. Weird.
Mhm. No, absolutely. I am thinking particularly, let's put ourselves in this situation, because I think this is something that happens quite often in couples. Let's say
Mm,
they're already committed, etc., and now the discussion of children comes up, but one member of the couple is like, absolutely, let's do it. The other member is afraid, scared, worried. How would you approach a conversation where you still present your point, but at the same time you respect and understand those fears and you
well,
don't diminish
what
those fears?
what you just said, the key is understanding that you you have to get to the root fears, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to get to the vulnerable, scary place in a conversation with somebody.
Mm.
What are they really afraid of? And you have to really listen, and you have to get why they're afraid, and you
Mm-hmm.
gotta really get it, and you gotta let them know you get it. And and then once that's done, then you have to, I mean, that's just like starting from there. You gotta start there. You're afraid of having kids or not having kids. What are you afraid of about that?
Mm.
Are you afraid you're gonna be a bad parent? Are you afraid you're gonna lose your life and you're just loving your current existence and you're afraid that having kids is gonna destroy your lifestyle?
Yeah.
What are you afraid of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and get very clear on that. And as long as and you can't make them wrong for having their fears. That's the thing too. See, the thing when somebody is being vulnerable and expressing their fears, if you make them wrong for that,
Yeah.
ooh, ooh, that is a conversation ender, man.
Yeah.
That is the kiss of death. So you have to learn how to communicate from vulnerability to
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what, when somebody's mad, okay, you're upset. Why am I upset? Well, I was upset because I thought you meant it make this, and then I made it mean this, and then I made it mean that you mean this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that to be the case because I don't think that's what you actually meant. And what I'm a stand for is being X, Y, and Z. I'm a stand for being powerful, loving connection where we can share and like be together. And I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
that person that's like making you wrong and like being like, I don't want to be that. And when you can do that, just magical things happen in communication. It's really cool. It's really cool. Not easy,
Yeah. In
but
I
it's
was
easy.
we wish it was easy, but it's achievable, right? That's the
The
important
thing is,
part.
it's like it's really hard and it's really easy at the same time. It's ve-
Mm.
it's very yin and yang. It's very like ancient wisdom kind of thinking. It's like it's because as soon as you get it and
Mm-hmm.
you let go of the ego, so then it's really easy. It's
Mm-hmm.
weird, weirdly like, but
Relaxing.
but learning how to unclench your fist is
Mm-hmm.
really hard. So,
In closing, Jeremiah, I know you often talk about give up being right
mhm,
and give up making the other person wrong. Is
mhm.
that is could you go over those two concepts a little bit? Because I think they sound really clear, but then you're like, wait a second, like there is so we're so invested in saying what we want to say, right? That we're
Mhm,
like, but I'm the one who's right.
mhm.
So, so how do you navigate that? Because
Well,
I love that concept.
thank you. It's not mine. But it's I'm not sure how to articulate it more than I have. It's just simply the we are all humans, we are just meaning-making machines. We make everything mean something. We make everything matter, and everything's very important to us. And we're all terrified of looking stupid and looking bad. Terrified.
Hmm.
Every
Hmm.
single one of us. Horrified of being made look the fool. And we're really, really, really focused on looking cool and looking good, being right.
Yep.
And when it comes to relationships, and this is the thing, you got to really choose your battles, people. There are some people don't waste your time on. Their energy sucks. They will pull all the energy toward them, and nothing positive will happen, and you'll just waste all your time and energy trying to appease this one person.
Yep.
I wouldn't do that if I were you. Really focus on a few key relationships, and from there, to the best of your ability, focus on listening. And when you catch yourself making them wrong, go,
Mm.
why am I making them wrong? Why do I care about being right? Hmm. Because I really feel passionately about making them wrong right now. Like I'm really on an ego trip about like making them wrong.
Hmm.
And it feels really good to be like, you're wrong and you're an idiot. And I dunked on you. It's very, very satisfying to the ego. And it's completely anathema, not useful in
Yeah.
having a productive, powerful relationship. So learning
Mm.
how but it's a real serotonin dump, man. It's a real like, you're wrong and
Yeah.
great. Yeah, you're right. You win. On his tombstone said, well, he was right,
And
and he's
now
dead.
what?
Congratulations.
Yep.
That's just not the life I want to choose. And you're gonna choose your own path, my friends, and you're gonna have you're gonna cause whatever relationships you want to cause,
Mm.
and uh, and it won't be an accident.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, hopefully focus on letting go of being right, hopefully focusing more on listening, understanding that everybody's afraid and everybody's afraid of looking bad
Mm.
and everybody's afraid of being left and everybody's afraid of being alone and everybody's afraid. Fear, 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 fear. Look at the news, look at politics. Fear, 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 fear,
Yeah.
fear. There's fear
Yeah.
everywhere.
Everywhere.
So, to the best of your ability, focus on the love, man. Give up being right. Focus on the things that matter, connections and you know
Mm.
the good stuff, the stuff you
The
actually
good
remember.
stuff.
You
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely. Um, if you could leave our audience with one key idea or one word that for you defines awesome, effective communication, what would that be? Or with a
I think
closing thought that
yeah, I think no,
that.
it's I cannot stress enough that giving up being right, even when you know you are,
Hmm.
that one's hard, man. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you just keep practicing and you keep practicing
Hmm.
and you're gonna mess up and your ego's gonna get defensive and your ego's gonna and it's gonna defend you and it's gonna make other people wrong and to the best of your ability to learn how to be like, ah, okay. Okay, buddy. It's okay, dude. It's okay. We don't need that right now. We can actually be vulnerable with our partner. It's okay. Um, but it's not easy. So I wish there was a magic formula.
Yeah.
Just practice, practice, And coaching helps a lot. Helps a lot to have somebody be like, hey, maybe go have that conversation right now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very useful.
Somebody that gives you that kick in the pants you need, because
Exactly.
you
It's
don't
very
give yourself the kick in the pants normally.
very handy. There's a reason Tony Robbins is like sells out millions of tickets. Like he's a real motivational dude. Like he's a real kick in the butt. People
Yeah.
like it. There's a
Yeah.
reason.
People need
So
that strong, firm sort of
it's
like,
like, hey, clean it up.
yeah,
Let's go.
yeah, let's go, let's do it. Yeah, definitely. I love that. And I think I want our audience to have a bit of homework as we wrap up the episode and think about that final thought that you just shared with us and think about what that looks like when they are interacting with their partner, with their significant other, where they're at sort of a peer level. They're definitely at a peer level. And what does that look like when they're interacting with their adult parents that maybe, again, they are doing a bunch of cuddling and not quite treating them like adults. So, how to let go of the ego in those two situations that are very different, right?
Well,
That's like,
I wish I could tell you how.
I know.
I can't.
It's an enigma.
I can't tell
It's
you how.
everybody has to do the work. I think
You
that's
have
what
you
everybody
can't
has to
skip it.
do the work.
You
Yeah.
can't skip the steps. You gotta
Just
you gotta do the steps, man.
yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely. But this has been an incredible conversation, Jeremiah.
thanks,
Would
Marta.
would you? It's been a real pleasure, and I know our audience will, as they listen to this episode, will enjoy the conversation as well.
I hope
Would
so.
would you please tell our listeners where they can find you online? Like,
Of course, everything is at ASMR Jeremiah. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, which I don't use a ton of, Twitch, any place you want to find me is ASMR Jeremiah. So thank you so
definitely.
much.
And please check out Jeremiah's channel because he has a lot of good content in there, a lot of excellent content, and um, a variety of different characters and different role plays to suit every need and every taste. Also,
Well, you got to
if
keep it
you're into
interesting.
yeah, if you're into card games or if you're into some
Meditation,
meditation, yeah,
German haircuts,
yes.
bros kidnapping you.
Absolutely. Well, again, what a pleasure. Maybe there will be another opportunity for us to sit together. We don't know what destiny and the future might bring,
We shall
but
see.
we shall see. But today has been amazing. So thank you so much for being here and have a good one.
Thank you so much, Marta. Until the next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you have listened to the Wise Doula podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everything we discussed today was meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not substitute the advice of your medical provider. Would you do us a favor? Follow me on Instagram at LovingBellyDoula. Also, let me know what other topics you would like to see me discuss in this podcast. And please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms. Thank you so much. I will see you next week.